2, 3, 4. Hey everybody, welcome. Look, I want to show you something today that, well, it's a cool little, little way to play a bunch of chords, okay? And I call it the Add 9 box. Now, typically, it's basically a C add 9 and a G add 9 put together, right? But we have other chords there. And the theory is that you kind of keep your hand in one position, but you have access to all these open chords, right? Now, they're the same chords as we would play traditionally in an open way and moving our hand around in these 3 frets. They just sound a little different. And let me show you what I mean. So basically, what this is, we're going to keep these 2 fingers on the same notes throughout the whole thing, okay? So that's what kind of makes it easy. So we are going to keep our pinky on this G note, which is the 3rd fret of that high E, and we're going to put our ring finger on the D note, which is the 3rd fret of the B. So those 2 fingers are not going to move throughout the whole process, right? Now, we'll call that the add 9 part of it, right? Now, these 2 fingers are going to now form your G chord, the way you probably were taught it or learned it or started playing it. A lot of people started right from day one playing their G this way. Now, some other ways to play the G might be just with the 1 finger, right, like this. There's this way here. There's, well, we could play this way here, right? You've probably seen that played with just these 2 fingers. You know, some people just play it like a power chord version. They just hold down the G note and just take those first 2 strings. Technically, that's been played as a G, right? So in this case, we're going to keep our fingers here and we're going to form our traditional G. We're going to strum all the strings and there's our G chord, okay? Now, all we need to do now is if we take these 2 fingers and we move them both down 1 string, okay? And we play the 5 string out. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now we've just played a C add 9, right? So G add 9, C add 9, okay? So here we go. G, okay, so we've just gone from G to C. Now, the comparable would be this. It's pretty close. Here's the difference. By having these 2 fretted right here, okay, on the treble strings, what we have is a consistent sort of, you hear at the end of that? Ping. Here's without it. Here's with it. Got that ping at the end. So when we go to the G or the C, we have that ping at the end, right? When we go to the D, we got that ping at the end. That's a regular D chord. But with the pinky on that 3rd fret, which a lot of us, me included, I have my pinky on that 3rd fret quite a bit when I play my open chords, if not always, right? So look what we've been able to do so far with just the same kind of pattern and finger pattern, like chord pattern, is we've been able to play a G Very minimal movement. We just move these two down and we got our C. Now, if we take this finger off and tuck it in behind our first finger, now we have an A. So what we're really doing here is we have the bottom, which are the first 4 strings, the bottom of the guitar, but the high strings, all fretted from 1 to 4. And there's our D. I'm sorry, there's a version of an A, okay? It's not an A major, it's actually like an A sus5 maybe, but remember the rule there. Whenever you see those chords with slashes or, susses and dim, D-I-M, and all that kind of stuff, just play an A, all right? So in this case, this is our A. We could call it an A add 9 just to illustrate that we're playing it in that add 9 box, right? So we could refer to it, but it's not an A add 9 as far as I know. So there's our A, okay? There's the A. Now, if we continue on and we take these 2 fingers and we form our traditional G. Now, the only difference between a regular G is the pinky. So there's our G, and there's our G. And I do this a lot with my G, right? I always have my pinky hanging around there. There's the subtle difference. But again, there's that add 9 ping, right? That's consistent throughout this way of playing. So now we've got G, move everything down, we got C, tuck this finger in here, play the 5 strings, and we got an A. Move it down here and play the last 4 strings, or the first 4 strings from bottom to top, and we have a D. Okay, so now we have D, A, C, G. Right? Okay, and there's one more. Remember, we got an E minor right here. Look at that. Some of you play your E minor with your first 2 fingers. So I find it a little awkward. First of all, because I play my E minor this way. But so in the heat of the moment, I tend to, muscle memory takes over and I'll whip into an E minor and I'll lose my add 9 positioning. So what I do is I just use the 1 finger. So for example, if I'm going to go to an E minor, I have 2 choices. I just lift this finger off, my big fat middle finger, and now I'm playing an E, right? I'm playing an open A, and I'm fretting another E right here, okay? Here's E minor. Pretty close, right? 1 finger or 2. I could do the same with the A, right? So that's my A note right here. I could cheat and do this A instead of putting that 2nd finger down, right? Which would be the E and the A. I could just take this off and just play it like that. There's my A add 9, right? Okay. So generally that's what I'm leaning to. I would probably pick this. If I'm going to use 1 finger on the A or the E minor, I'd probably pick the 4-fingered and I would fret that B note. Because that gives me the first 3 strings E, B, E. Right? And if you look at your E minor with all 6 strings, the first 3 are E, B, E, right? So we're going to sound the same. So that's my go-to E minor right there. It's just that 1 finger. So look, now we've got G, C, A, D, E minor. Songs G, C, D, and using these chords, the version of the A and the E minor, we can play all the songs that take those chords and some form of that chord progression without breaking away from our little add 9 house, right? So we plant our 2 fingers down, and then we've got, as you heard from the opening, love it or hate it. Was it something I said, something I did? Did the words just come out right? Da 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 da. Every rose. Hey, what are you gonna do, right? Now, for those maybe a little more contemporary, not really my genre per se, but there's something unpredictable, and in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. We got that kind of thing. Now, remember, these are chord progressions. So just like any other chord progression, we can bring the capo into play to sort of get different sounds out of it, right? So we could slap a capo here on 4, tightens up the strings a little bit, brings everything up in pitch, right? And we can, now we get a little different sound out of that same progression. Right? Or any version of that. And then, of course, I think, well, we all know what happens. And if you don't, you're about to find out. If we put a capo on 2, right? And we go back to our add 9 house, then we've got, right? Today's gonna be the day. So that's the big Wonderwall song. And again, I think that one's getting to the point where for a lot of people it's love it or hate it too. But that's another example. So really, you're so versatile here, okay? Now, what I do find, though, there's a couple of things I'd like to finish off with, is that what I do find is once you're in this house, you pretty much stay in this house, or at least I do. Like, I don't flip and flop, right? So in other words, if I'm playing a G, C, D, and that's the song, and I'm singing along, right? And I do, and my cat just ate the dog. I'm not going to all of a sudden switch over and play it here. It's not really meant for that. This whole idea is you get in that house, the C add 9 house, and you stay there. And you play all those chords, because remember, you have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got access to 5 chords with barely moving these 2 fingers, and these 2 stay the same. And you do have that distinct kind of, that at the end, right? So it's one of those things that you start the song in it, you finish the song in it. And lastly, just like anything, when you're playing for the first time new, right? So up until now, if you're in the beginner's phase, you might have been plugging around for 2 or 3 months with the G and the C and the D and the E chord, whatever. And now all of a sudden it sounds a little different. Like it's a G, but it sounds a little different. It's a C, but it sounds a little different, right? And sometimes it requires just a little adjustment on your strumming, like where you where you emphasize on what strings to kind of get a nice sound that your ear says, hey, you know what, that sounds pretty good. Keep that up. So remember, just because someone says, all right, well, do this and strum it, there's your chord, sometimes you still got to kind of figure out what sounds best for you. Okay? All right, so I hope this helps. It's a cool little way of playing. It's really easy, and if you pick it up early on in your journey, it just becomes ingrained in your muscle memory, and you can whip it out at any time that you want and use it, all right? And for those of you that are well established and you're just finding this out for the first time, hey, it's another club in your bag. It's another way to make music. And it's an easy way to make music. And when it's fun and it's easy, hey, how bad could it be? All right, I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks again for your ongoing support. Don't forget to join me live on Tuesdays. More information on the channel, and if you have comments, suggestions, whatever, any way that I can help you, send them along, and we'll see you again soon. Happy playing, and remember, it's all about the practice. All right.